defender of donuts. 3 meals are faster than none. She'll make it all good in your neighborhood. She'll make sure we have loads of fun. Who will help Lily? Who will catch Billy? It's Trixie the Tricycle Trooper.
Hi Flosstube, my name's Jody and I'm Trixie Tricycle on YouTube and also on Instagram, and I'm also the owner of Cedar River Linen and Design. And today is October 29th, Sunday, and it's been I think like 4 months since I made a video. No specific, there's nothing wrong. I've just been busy and sort of adapting to life after the fire department. So, which has been really good, but it's a pretty big adjustment. So I appreciate everybody, you know, being patient, sticking around, and welcome back. And if you're new, hello. Today I have a ton of stitching that I want to share. I'd like to share some fully finished objects, some starts and finishes, some starts and fully finishes, some new starts, and then a few of the whips that I was working on that I didn't quite finish. So, and then I'd like to talk about 2 retreats that I went to this fall. The first being the Acorns and Threads Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit, which happened in September. Super fun. And show the projects that were, it was Ink Circles and Satsuma Street. And Tracy and Jody were awesome, and the patterns that they released at the retreat for the retreat attendees are beautiful. So I'd like to share those. And then I also attended the first weekend of Jacob Palooza, which was hosted by Evertote. And was held in London, Ontario, and that featured Jacob DeGraff from Modern Folk Embroidery. And it was amazing. It was a great, fantastic week. But in order to show all of my stitching and then be able to talk about that in any kind of detail, I may need to break this into 2 videos. So we'll just kind of see how things go. So, first of all, I'm going to show you a couple of projects that I showed in my last video that I had completed, but now they are framed. So the first one is designed by my lovely friend Ellen, who is a fantastic person and also an amazing, relatively new cross-stitch designer, and I want to stitch every single thing that she designs. So this is the Ravens at Castle Kerr. This is a castle in Scotland, I believe, and she's got links to this, her ancestry, people in her family. It's a real place. You can rent it, which is kind of cool. So I had stitched this. I adjusted the Raven just a little bit color-wise, just to kind of play around with it. And then I put in my own little quote, and this is how it turned out. So all of the framing I've done, so bear with me. Don't blame any professional framers. But I think it turned out pretty cute. This is stitched on 36 count tephra by me. This is a Cedar River linen color, and this is with the called for Roxy Flossco floss pack, specifically for this chart. And I just substituted a few, I put a little red in there, or I pulled one of the greens out maybe, added a yellow, I think, in this one. I just kind of played with it, and then my little play on Jaws. You're going to need a bigger boat, but instead you're going to need a bigger boat. So that is my first fully finished object from projects that you saw. They're finished. I loved it. Okay. The next one And this was a really cool, I'll probably talk about this for a little bit now just because it's appropriate, but this is called IAB 1817, the Rosebush Sampler. This is by Modern Folk Embroidery, and Jacob actually brought this to the retreat, the original antique sampler, and I was able to get a photo of him and me with the antique and with mine. So that was very nice of him to do that. But the original is beautiful. It's really washed out, faded. The story of how he got it was really cool. Anyway, and the antique is about the same size, so we think it probably was stitched on about 46 count, the original, and so could be because mine and his are about the same. So I'll pop a photo in here. But once again, this is me framing. So this is on 46 count Brea by Needle and Flax. And I used Oversois 103 silks. And the preponderance of the chart is done with an almost direct DMC conversion, and I'll put a picture of that in there. The exception is that these side vases, I just pulled 103 silks that were similar to the fabric color so that they would blend in the same way that the original chart kind of, it shows them as sort of ghosty stitches, which I really liked. So just really simple framing. I kind of have a sampler wall started, and I've just been using these kind of plain black. They're custom sizing, but they're relatively inexpensive on Amazon. And then I follow Teresa Kitten Stitcher's tutorial on how to pin a cross stitch to frame. And this one, I don't actually have a back, and so this is my lacing. Anyway, it looks all right. I think it's okay, and this was so much fun. I really enjoyed stitching this. I stitched this pretty quickly. I think I talked about that in my last video. So that is fully finished object number 2. Okay, now we get into some. This is called Toonies. This was a release at Stitch North by Dee's 20 Stitches and Uncanny Kari. And I believe that at the time it was kind of a retreat exclusive, but since then they've released some additional copies, so I would just check Dee's 20 Stitches site to see if this is available, because I know a lot of people asked about it and wanted to stitch it. The called for fabric is my Cedar River red cedar, and the image on the front of the chart it pulls a little more blue, but the model itself is actually on red cedar, and it is really close to, I mean, it's the same color. It's more of a like a warm rust red. So anyway, this is the chart, and I just pulled a little frame that I had, and this is my finish. So I used a few Gloriana threads, and I can't remember, I know I put the colors last time in my video in the drop down, but I hadn't finished the whole chart yet, but I love it. It's so cute with the trillium blossom and that baby loon. It's just super cute. So that is FFO number 3. Everything else that I actually, I have one more. This is a finish, but it's not fully finished. But this was something that I'd started a while ago. So Darcy Cameron, who has a Flosstube and also is on Etsy and has designed some really cool charts. This is called The Religion of Solitude. It's a quote by Aldous Huxley. I really like this and got it almost right when he released the chart. This time of year, it always feels a little kind of appropriate, but I chose colors that were similar to, you can't really see it, but it's behind me. The Lindy Stitches has a design called Dracula's Confession, and the called for colors are murky, and then some colors that I had extra. And so I actually converted the Darcy's called for DMC colors, which were kind of close, and I went ahead and just kind of played around with them a little bit. Now, this is kind of a finish for now. I'm not sure if I'm going to add anything else to it. I kind of like the way that it is, and this piece of murky, I want to say it's 32 count Lugana, and it's just really pretty. So I don't think I'm going to put in the rest of the verse or Aldous Huxley's name down below. I really just kind of like the way that it looks. And Darcy just released a new chart. I think it's called Out on a Limb, and it's really similar to this. It's got a neat tree, and then and a moon, and at the end of it there's a cat sitting out on the limb, and I think that would be really cute with this one too. So go check out his Etsy site. His Instagram is Stitchman Darcy, and he's Stitchman Darcy also on YouTube. So this is a finish. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it yet, but it'll probably end up in a frame. And I really liked it. These are the colors. Let's see. You know what? There they are. So, and again, these are just kind of pulled from my stash, and they were from the Dracula's Confession, which a lot of people I know have. So that's kind of the general color palette. I really liked it. It was very fun. Okay. So another chart that I started, my friend Gwyneth and Ellen started this for Ellen's birthday in July. Oh man, I'm the worst friend ever, but I think that's when we started it. So this is Bluebird and a Cherry Tree by Kathy Barrick. And Olivia B has a shop called Hillside Rookery, and that's where I got the chart, and also the floss pack, the NPI silks. And she does such a beautiful job of packaging them up, and she sends out her shipping is in really sustainable packaging, and sometimes the silks, they come in a little burlap bag that you can reuse, super cute. And then she stamps the title or the name of the chart on the card, which I think is really cool. And then I actually used one of her business cards. I just punched it and used it as a thread drop. So these are some of the thread drops that I've gotten kind of over time through the great Mama Loves You GB did a floss drop exchange, and that was really fun. So I still have a bunch of those, and so I've just been stamping them, using them, or punching holes and using them for projects as I kit things up. So, but these are the colors for, called for NPI. And I used a piece of fabric that I dyed. It was in, I've kind of been testing some new colors. I haven't released anything yet. There's just been some other things that I've wanted to prioritize before I jump into another set of colors to curate and provide consistency. So still the same 5 colors in my shop so far, but that hopefully will change here in the next short little while. But this is the finish. This color of linen probably won't end up being in the final palette. It's a little too blue periwinkle. I'm not necessarily, it's very pretty, but I was going for more of kind of a silvery gray, but I really liked it for this chart. So that is my start and finish and fully finished. What do we call that? Start and fully finished Sappho? A Sappho. Anyway, that's Bluebird and a Cherry Tree. This was fun. That's a lot of white on that tree. And many, many cherries. Anyway, that was fun. So my bird wall is starting to shape up. Okay, another start and fully finished object. And actually, when I filmed my last video, I had already completed this, but Ellen hadn't released it yet. So, you know, one of the benefits of being friends with an awesome cross-stitch designer is sometimes you get stuff early. When I saw this, I like lost my mind and immediately wanted to stitch it. So this is Eddie and Patsy, again by Maximum Cross Stitch, which you can get on her website or you can get from Evertote. Oh, I love those birds so much. So because it was so early, she didn't have the Roxy Floss Co. conversion done yet. Maybe she did, maybe I'm lying. But I wanted to do this on 46 count, and I had some Overa Swell 103s, and so I stitched Eddie and Patsy. Again, this is on a piece of linen that I am sort of testing. It's a pretty green tone. I'm having a difficulty replicating it consistently, which is why I have not released it yet, but it is really pretty. This is a reproduction, and I absolutely love it. There are quite a few people who are currently stitching this, and it's gorgeous. So like I said, bird wall shaping up. I'm going to take a minute. If you're wondering how I've gotten so much done since the last time I did a video, I'm going to put a little plug in here right now. I got one of Caroline's, so Hearthside Craftworks does a floor stand. Caroline's husband, and she purchased the company from the previous owners, and he is now building these amazing lap and floor stands. And I'm going to do a video that should be live most likely on Tuesday, on the 31st, to talk about, because I get a million questions about scroll frames. What kind of scroll frames do you use? What kind of floor stand do you use? Because I almost exclusively use scroll rods to stitch on. And I had a setup before that was decent, worked, but the floor stand, the Mark II floor stand, is like total game changer for me. So it's made it so much faster, more efficient, enjoyable, because I can sit upstairs. They're so pretty. They look like a piece of furniture. Anyway, I'm going to talk about this more in the other video, but just to sort of throw that in there, that's one of the reasons why you're going to see another few projects that are pretty big that I've gotten a fair amount of progress on. And it's specifically because that floor stand has totally changed how I stitch, and it's awesome. So with that said, I started Marianne Kopp by Brenda Gervais. This is With Thy Needle and Thread. I think this was released at Needlework Market, and when I first saw it, I was like, definitely knew that I wanted to do it. I just love the simplicity, but the colorful border that in the house, and it's just super simple. The grass and the fence and everything about it. So the called for are over dyed, and there is not a DMC. There isn't a DMC listing. The called for are all over dyed, and I didn't quite have all of them, but I had a number of them. And because I wanted, again, to do this on 46 count. Now you can stitch, you can do any kind of thread on 46 count. I just like the way that 103s look. So I pulled all of my over dyed and then pulled DMC that looked close and looked at a couple of conversion charts. And then I pulled all of the, once I had the DMC listings, then I went ahead and did a 103 conversion that I used for this. So I stitched this on 46 count overcast, which is one of my linens, and I finished it. I was obsessed with this, and this is when I first got my floor stand, and it made it so much easier. I could stitch with both hands, flip the work over, everything was right there that I needed, and was in a really comfortable chair upstairs and could look out my window, and so so happy with that. Anyway, I really like this chart, and I loved being able to hang it up. So that is another start and finish. Pretty. I've put away the flosses, but I do have the numbers. I've had a few people ask about, getting conversions, and if you, the easiest way for you to, if you do want to stitch it similarly so that it looks the same, and I think my colors are slightly brighter. I think they're a little more, so not everybody's going to love that. You know, the photo on the chart is a little more muted. But I like how mine turned out. Anyway, if you're interested, Instagram on Trixie Tricycle, if you send me a direct message, that's the easiest way for any of the things that I've come up with my own colors for. If you like those, I have no problem sharing. It's probably just going to end up being like scrawled on a legal pad, but if you can handle that. So the next thing I want to do is to do some starts. I don't know that I have that many whips. I think everything that I've been working on, mostly I've started since my last video, but if I come across a few, I'll point those out. So stand by. You won't even know that you're standing by, because it's just going to end up getting cut out, which is totally fine. That's what happens. I've had this chart for a few years. This is probably one of the first charts that I downloaded from Etsy, and just had never really gotten around to stitching it. I kind of liked at the beginning those sort of full coverage travel posters. I stitched a Costa Rica coffee chart with a bird on it that I've got on my it's in my downstairs kitchen. So this was another one, and you know, spending almost 2 decades in the fire department and seeing what happened in Maui over the summer was pretty it's devastating. So I just kind of had a, where you just kind of need to contemplate and absorb and just I love Hawaii, and I am very respectful of the fact that people that called Lahaina their community had a devastating loss. And so this was just kind of a way to, I've stitched on this for, 2 or 3 weeks and just kind of thought about it and listened to the news and was watching. We had some Seattle Fire Department members that deployed out to help with search efforts, and it sort of hit close to home. So anyway, this is called Golden Palms, and it's a full coverage, calls for DMC. It's just really subtle, kind of quiet, muted colors. And I'm stitching this on a piece of Aida. This is 20 count Aida, and it's just over 1. So I've gotten about, I think I'm about 2/3 of the way. I don't know about you, but something about full coverage, kind of the same thing with Mirabilia, but a lot of heaven and earth designs. There's something kind of comforting about stitching. Now the nice thing about this is that because it's 20 count, you only need 1 strand, and you still get, really decent coverage on there. So yeah, I think that's really pretty. But this is on 20 count Tephra Aida, and that will end up framed at some point once I finish. So that was a start. Another piece that I started, Lauren, again, the New Hampshire stitcher, had a BAP to school sal. So big ass project. Kind of a stitch along. So it was just stitch on something big, start something big, work on something big, whatever. And the biggest chart that I had was this GGR chart. And I believe, I'm certain it's MT 1810 by GGR. And the reason that I was looking on another, I can't remember a shop website, but they listed it as MJ 1810, which I can see why, because the script looks a bit like a J. But if you look down here at that smaller, it's this transcription of an old sampler, and that T is the same as that T. So I believe this is MT 1810 by GGR. Now, this is a very big chart. This is 518 wide by 396 high. So I started down here at the bottom. I've been working my way across. And this is another, I'll talk about this again when I share about my floor stand. I use Millennium frames, and on larger projects like this, I like to have the whole width, and this is on 36 count, and so you need a big row. So this is where I'm at. This is on 36 count overcast. I'm using 1 strand of DMC over 2 threads. And this is where I'm at. It's really big. So if I stand back here, you can see this is almost 2 feet across, just the stitching from border to border. So in order to have, you know, a stand that's big enough to support a 40-inch wide bar, that was one of the test markers that Caroline wanted me to sort of review and see if it would work, and it's pretty remarkable. So anyway, this is MT1810. This is as far as I've gotten. I really, really like it. The birds are real weird and cool and different colors, and so that is, let's see, these are the DMC colors. So these are the DMC colors. So some pinks and reds, and so far the bottom is pretty muted, but it gets into some more color as it progresses upward. So that is the full width. That is border to border, which is good because I didn't have much fabric left. So one more time, this is my big ass back to school sampler, and very beautiful. I love it. So people ask about, you know, I get a lot of emails asking, you know, would this color linen, would your Overcast or would your Tephra work for whatever charts? Overcast is probably the most utility type. Overcast is a really utilitarian neutral. It goes with almost everything. So someone's asking about if it would work with a red sampler. And I think the answer is yes, because it doesn't pull too yellow, it's not too brown, it's not too green, it's not too red, it's just a nice grayish. It's not really gray, it's just like a neutral. So, when in doubt. So that was that start. Another one that I started, this is a modern folk embroidery chart, and this is, it's called Got the Morbs. He just released this not too long ago, and I just think it's super cute. Now there's a Mariam, whose Flosstube is Marumi Crafts. She's a designer, and had mentioned, I guess, on her Instagram that she was going through an old Victorian book and found this as a kind of a slang term. Got the morbs, just meaning that you feel, you know, you got the blues, you melancholia. And so Jacob loved it so much that he kind of stayed up and charted this in one night and then released it. So I think it's super cute. And I was getting ready to go to Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit, and so while I was there, I wanted something that was relatively small that that was just going to be a monochromatic piece. So that is what I did. So this is as far as I've gotten, and I did work on this too at Jacobpalooza. Again, when you're at a retreat, I find that it's just a little easier to work on one thing. Or a monochromatic piece that's a little bit smaller. I can pay attention a little bit better. I end up having to frog less when I am trying to, you know, juggle a bunch of different colors, and it just is difficult for me. And so what I found is that this works. So it's all cross stitch. It does not call for eyelets, although Jacob had showed something on his Instagram where he was stitching the big letters, the morbs and eyelets, which I think would look great too. I did not do that. So again, this is on that fabric, the same as Eddie and Patsy. same fabric, but again, I'm having a hard time replicating it. Boo. And I am using a 46, it is 46 count, and this is using Oversois 103 and number 236. 236. So, and this is a project bag I made a while back. So this is cute. I'm not sure what I'll do with it when it's in, but it's seasonally appropriate. And that's available also Evertote or on modernfolkembroidery.com. So Harside Craftworks floor stand strikes again, and I got so excited when I got back from Jigapalooza. I had purchased some linen from Carrie, Roxy Floss Co. And I had this chart, how to kit it up, and was wanting to stitch it a long time ago, but I didn't ever really have the right color. And the second that I saw it on the table, and a few other people had picked up some and purchased some pieces of it, I was like, that is what I want to stitch this on. So, Halloween at Hollyberry Farm. Now the called for color in the photo looks a little more gray to me, but I kind of wanted it to be a little more, I don't know, dirt and gray. That's the technical term for it. So Carrie dyed some fabric. I'm not sure if it's available on the website. Sometimes they just do like a single, you know, like a one of a kind, but this one's named, so I think that there's a likelihood that there's more of it available. I would just go and look on their website, but this is called French Hen. I envy this fabric so much. It's so beautiful. I love it. Carrie is a wizard, and she's just an amazing person, and I love her flosses, and I love her linen so much. So this, again, is called French Hen, and this is my Halloween at Hollyberry Farm. I'm trying to see if that's even in the, there we go. So, again, it's so easy just to flip, flip, flip. You can stitch with two hands. I'm just like working. It's very nice to be upstairs. The colors that I'm using, again, I just pulled the DMC conversion and then just pulled the 103s that I have out of stash. So, like, this is the pumpkin color. This is a lot of the border work, which is just a really vibrant. This is a 303. The darker kind of gold color for some of the letterings is 616. And then just white 080 for the cream color. The black is just noir, and then 773 for, it's kind of a bluey charcoal black. Love it. It's a simple color palette. I love it. It's going to go up. It's going to be hung up. In fact, Olivia B has been doing vlog, kind of a vlogoween series, and in a couple of her videos she's got her finished Halloween at Hollyberry Farm framed behind her, and every time I'm like zooming in and looking at it, it's so pretty. And if you haven't been watching her, it's a really fun, she posts every few days, and she's just been posting since you know, for the month of October, and it's some very fun stuff to watch, so definitely go watch Olivia B. Okay, the last thing that I started was, let's see here. I got this at Thread Needle Street, which is a local cross-stitch shop. It's up in Issaquah, which is a little bit north of me. And while in my last video I talked about large cross-stitch shops having lots of framed models that you can go in and look at, and that and I mentioned that I did not have a local cross-stitch shop where one could go and do that. And I misspoke. That's not true. I've been to Threadneedle Street. She's got beautiful selection of threads. Every Mirabilia chart that you can, that you can still get. There's still lots of shepherd's bush, lots of different notions, and some, a lot of 32, which makes sense because of how many Mirabilia charts she's got in the shop, but lots of 32 count. But every, if you wanted to go and get one of these kitted up, you can walk in and do that. And then a number of other charts. So I did not mean to, to indicate that that was not a beautiful shop. It is. I was kind of making more of a statement about a shop that has a tremendous number of models stitched and up in the shop, kind of like the attic or hobby house, and I know that there are more. I don't want to make anybody upset, but anyway, Threadneedle Street is great. And this is where I got this. About 1.5 years ago, my friend Kelly and I went up there and I got this fully kitted up. And so this is Winter Queen. Kind of hard to see the photo. It's very small, but it is really pretty. I love the colors. So, like I said, I've got all the beads, the Krynic, the Whisper thread, and I pulled all the DMC colors out. And got a little baby start on it. So that's just the bottom, the very bottom of her dress. And it's on 32 count Albarium, which is one of my linens. It's stitched 2 over 2 with the called for DMC because Mirabilias have to be that way in order for the beads to fit. So, that is the extent of, is that enough? That's the extent of my stitching. So we're at 45 minutes. I'm probably going to be editing out just a little bit, so it may be slightly shorter. And I think I will just kind of charge on and we'll talk a little bit about the 2 retreats. I'll show you the projects, the pieces, and then I want to share some happy mail. So stand by. Okay, so a little reset. In September, I attended the Acorns and Threads Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit. It's the 2nd year that I've gone. I really enjoy it. First, it's just under 3 hours for me to drive from my house to get down there. So travel-wise, it makes it really easy. And Janine and her staff put on a really good event. You always know in advance who the designers are going to be. So this year it was Ink Circles and Satsuma Street. And both of the projects were really beautiful. So, it's held at an Embassy Suites. A few of the meals are included. So someone, I think I was at Jacobpalooza, and somebody was asking me about it and said that they, first of all, for them, they're traveling across the country, so the cost ends up being a little bit more. But they were looking at the price of the retreat, which I think is very reasonable. But I understood, like, compared to maybe StitchCon, where you're going and it's really a social event. And this is too, but it's a little bit smaller. And also there are 2 designers, or there have been for the last 2 years. The 2022, it was Stephanie and so it was Lindy Stitches and the Blue Flower, G. McGowan. So those were the 2 designers for 2022, and then in 2023, again, it was Satsuma Street and Ink Circles. And it's just neat because you get to, meet the designers and they get to tell you about their process for how they design, usually it's kind of a themed. So the first year it was, you know, kind of Pacific Northwest, like both the beach and little animals, and a few people have been stitching those designs and they're super cute. This year it was more about the trees. So this was the bag, first of all, that we got when we came in, and that's kind of cool because it's like a little lunch bag. So like a little, it's got like, you know, sort of little thermal protection. So it's sort of fun, good reusable. And there's just some goodies in there. I'm not going to go through all of it, but I will just share. This is the Satsuma Street project. And this is called Turning Leaves. I love how bright all of those flosses are. And they included the linen and the flosses with the chart. So that's the other thing, you're getting 2 full kits included in your registration. So let's see. So she included the Cosmo flosses and the linen. I love it. It's got a real kind of mid-century, kind of 70s vibe. This is the close-up on the back. Anyway, one of the things we found out was that Jody used to work in animation for movies, which totally, that tracks with a lot of her, you know, when you think about her Little Cities series, just her artwork and the way that she designs looks to me very, you know, it's a, when she mentioned that, we were like, oh, totally, that completely makes sense. This is the Ink Circles project. And it is just beautiful. And of course the models were there, and so they just look so pretty when they're done. But this is called Forest for the Trees. And it's so pretty. And again, those, the flosses are included in that too. And the linen. So it's fun. It's fun to go and be surprised, and you know you know who the designers are, but you don't know what products are going to be. So when they get revealed, it's just really fun. So you know, every time you go to a retreat, people are so generous with gifts and coming up and saying hello, and this was no exception. So many little, you know, floss drops and needle minders. And one of the people that was sitting at the table just next to ours, and I sat with my friend Janet and Gloria, who I sat with last year from San Diego, and Danielle B. and Erin, 2 Martini Stitcher, and then Michelle Benny Stitchy was kind of jumping back and forth between 2 tables, and sort of right next to us, which was really fun. We sort of had this back corner. And Mari, who works at the Stitch Niche in Texas, was there, and I think she said it was her first retreat that she had attended. And she was so full of life and so much fun and so generous with all of the things. She was like Santa's workshop back there. She was making, you know, scissor holders, and she was, you know, making little scissor fobs, and for everyone, she thought that there were going to be like 12 people at her table or something. So beforehand, she had purchased these little bags for everybody that was going to be at her table, and because she had extras, she's like, well, you guys are kind of my table too because you're right next to me. So she just kept coming around and just kept, here, try have one of these, and she would have like these beautiful scissor. Not to mention, she was just so much fun, and I just really enjoyed meeting her. So if you're ever at the Stitch Niche, or if you happen to be at another retreat where she is, say hi to Mari, because she'll come say hi to you. You won't even have to. But anyway, I loved meeting you. You were fantastic, and I'm not even sure she watches my videos. But anyway, that was super, super sweet. I met a nice woman who was from the Ballard area named Anne Marie. She was also at Jacobpalooza and made this adorable little needle minder. Squirrel themed for the acorns. I love it. What else is in here? These were some little cute little coasters, like cup coasters. I'll let you read those. Anyway, these are from Mari. So I can't go through everything. Van, who is aka Van Mom, she has a Patreon, and I'm a member of that, and she's got a little series called Top of the Tin. So you can take like an Altoids tin, or, I've got these that you can, I purchased on Amazon, and they're just blank. So you can use those to finish this little series. Anyway, check out her Patreon. She does a lot of paper crafting, and has got these great little charts. This is the second one that she's given me, and those are super, super sweet. So yeah, anyway, the gifts are always so generous, and it's always so nice to meet people, and so I really, really enjoyed Pacific Northwest Stitch Summit. I would highly recommend. So then Caroline at Evertote has been collaborating with Jacob for a period of time. She carries if not all, almost all of his charts that you could also get as PDF downloads from his website. But he attended and was there for 2 weekends. So they were, weekend 1, weekend 2. I was at weekend 1. And he offered a couple of classes. One was how to stitch Frisian letters, and the other was how to finish a cross-stitch piece with an open hem stitch. So I really enjoyed going, and I know there are lots of retreats where you're going and you're learning how to do a thing. And the open hem stitch, I think, is something I'm going to use quite a bit. And he was very patient. He was so nice in person. I mean, he always seems to be nice no matter what. I mean, he's, he wrote my intro song, and it's hilarious. And, anybody that does that without even knowing you, it's got to be a good heart in there. So he proved it. He's super cool, super nice. And was there all, like, both days, all 3 days. I think it was Friday, Saturday. Is that right? Friday, Saturday, Sunday. At least part of Sunday, and was just there in the room to answer questions, and would bring people up in small groups to show his antique samplers. There are other people. I think Shiloh, X-Stitch MD, is on Instagram, but she just did a video, and she did a really good job. She was at weekend 2 and showed some video of the antique samplers that he had laid out, and some of the, completed stitching that other people had done from their weekend. I am not good at that. I just am not. I'm not good at remembering in the moment to photograph. Only when other people say, you should get a picture with Jacob because he's here with the antique that you stitched too. And then I'm like, oh yeah. I should probably do that. But anyway, so definitely go and check out some of the other videos that have been in there. But I will show you the trip. First of all, coming back from Stitch North, had kind of, it wasn't terrible. It's like first world problem kind of, complaint, but we got delayed. It was a really weird, we ended up having to drive home from Vancouver, BC, rather than wait until the following morning and get flown out after, I don't know what the plan was for us to stay overnight in the airport or something, but the flights were delayed, and there were a few reasons why. I had chatted with Laura because she was considering just driving from her house just outside Chicago to London, Ontario, because if she were to fly into Toronto, she would have had to drive or get a ride 2 hours back to London. So it just kind of wasn't, she was talking about, hey, I think I'm just going to rent a car and we're just going to drive. Or I'm going to drive. And I was like, well, what if I just flew to Chicago and then we just drove up together? She's like, oh my gosh, yes. So that's what we did. I flew into Chicago. She and Mike Dewitt picked me up, and we got the rental car and we hit the road. And I don't think there was more than about 30 seconds of quiet in the entire 7.5 hour ride. We talked the whole time. And it was really, really fun. Laura is an amazing person. And again, I knew that already. We've been friends for a couple years now, and I've had the pleasure of not only being her roommate at a couple of different retreats. By the way, if I ever say regatta instead of retreat, which I think I might have done earlier in a video, I'm just realizing, my life before the fire department, I used to work as a rowing coach. And so going away and doing a thing that starts with an R sometimes will just come out of my mouth as like, yeah, I've been to a regatta with so-and-so. That's not, I'm talking about retreats. So anyway, just as a side note, if I ever say that, that's what I mean. So being Laura's roommate at not one, but 2 retreats now, and she's just great. She's super fun. But it was really nice to be able to sort of just have a road trip, get on the road, see a new part of the country, drive up through, the leaves were starting to change, and it was really, really fun. It was a really good time. And yeah, she's very, very kind and thoughtful and genuinely nice person, and I just love her. I think she's great. So, and once we got there, got to see Caroline and Carrie and Ellen and Gwyneth, and Rai Rai surprised us and was there too, and my friend Anne-Marie was there from Ballard, and there's tons of people that were there at the retreat that I got to meet in person, and it was so much fun. So we got there a little early. I guess we got there Wednesday night, and then had Thursday so that we could just hang out in the room and stitch and have lunch and chat with Ellen and Gwyneth, because they got there a little early too, and with Ryan, and that was worth it. That was definitely worth getting there a day early. So once things wrapped up, then Laura and I drove back on Sunday. I dropped her off at her house, drove to the airport at O'Hare, and stayed at the O'Hare Hilton that night, and then got up the next morning and flew home. So it was actually a really easy. It was an enjoyable trip, and it felt fun to sort of be out and on the road and doing something outside of my house, which is where I tend to stay the majority of the time. I love my house, so it's really easy to be here, and it's good for me to get out and to, again, I keep bringing her up, but Olivia B was talking about travel. Travel is anxiety inducing for me too, and And I think for a lot of people. And so to have friends that live far away is a huge motivator for me to get out of my comfort zone and to go and do things that once I'm there, I'm really enjoying it. It's the anticipation of it that gets it can be kind of overwhelming. And just it doesn't seem like that's something that that should get under my skin, but it does a little bit. So it was really good to go, really good to be there, and then really good to come home. Anyway, that was the travel part of it. But the actual event, let me show you some of the stuff that we got. So first of all, it's really easy to shop there because everything is just right outside the room. They've got beautiful tables full of linen, and they had a project bag that was kind of specifically for the event, that you could purchase a big one or a small one, all the Roxy flosses. And so you get a chart from Jacob, and then you go, oh, well, what flosses should I use? And let's run out and go pick and come up with conversions. And so, of course, that was really fun. So this is project bag. It's kind of square. This is the larger one. And just a really nice neutral lining. The Evertote project bags are always really nicely made. So a little top zipper. I mentioned that one of the things that we got to learn how to do was how to stitch an open hem. And Jacob put together a video, and in our little swag bags we got, by the way, that's a Roxy needle minder from Roxy Floss Co. That's the color one. I love it. And in the kit, we got there's a needle book. This is the Retreat needle minder, which is just a pretty black enamel. Love it. So this sweet little needle book. And then got a floss. We either got red or green, or red or blue, and then a piece of linen to practice on, so that we could practice our open hem stitch, how to pull a thread and do all the steps. So before the retreat happened, Hannah and Caroline had done a kind of a ask us anything about the retreat in advance video, and had mentioned at the time that there was going to be an open hem stitch tutorial. And so I brought with me a piece that I had already stitched, and I actually was working on this and got really close to finishing it when I was at Stitch North 2022. Yes. And that was this chart, this Modern Folk Embroidery, The Hound and the Hare. And this is a fundraiser, or was when he released it. This is for a greyhound rescue for a friend of his in Europe. And I just loved it. I thought it was really cool. So I stitched this on 36 count cream linen to Swigart with a Schoolhouse Red by Gentle Arts. That's the color that I used. And I had completed it, and it was just sitting in my box, of finished items that I hadn't done anything with. And so I decided to bring it along and see if maybe this would be appropriate for the project, the Open Hem Stitch project. And there it is. So it was really satisfying to do an open hem stitch. And I figured if I mess it up, I mess it up. It's not that big of a deal. But I just really like the way that it turned out. It looks, somebody was saying that, you know, we put a hem stitch on something and it immediately looks antique. Which I think, it's like, yeah, kind of. So I think what I'm going to do is actually like tack this to another piece of fabric and then use a poster hanger, which is just a magnetic piece of, you know, 2 pieces of wood that will clamp to the top and 2 pieces of wood that clamp to the bottom, and it's got a little rope hanger, and then just hang it up somewhere in the house. But I love it, and this chart was very fun to stitch too. Lots of those repeating patterns and just geometric shapes, and I love it. And like I mentioned, I think when I talked about this, when I was stitching it, our dog Charlie loves to sprint out of the front door. We have a fenced front yard, and he will just sprint and do the perimeter for rabbits, because we do have rabbits in the neighborhood, and so it's appropriate. So that was so cool to learn how to do that. The other was sort of a tutorial on how to stitch Frisian letters. And this is a very sort of geographically specific style of lettering that originated in sort of Jacob's home region of Friesland, if I understand correctly. And the cool part, excuse the crinkles, the cool part about that is that the retreat piece that I chose, you could choose one of 2. One was large, one was smaller, and then you could buy the other one once you got there if you wanted to. So, which of course I ended up doing. But this was the retreat, and it's quite large and quite beautiful, but you can see those Frisian letters. And this is stitched by what Jacob believes is a mother-daughter duo. Like, mom started it, daughter continued working on it. And their names are Chircha and Gircha. And comes from late 1700s, early 1800s. It's beautiful. And the colors, so this is the name of the fabric is Speculatsus, I think is how Daniel pronounced it. Speculatsus, which is the German way. But there's Speculas, which I think is the Danish way, and Speculoos, which is the Belgian way. It's a Christmas cookie. Okay? These are the colors. The linen is beautiful. The flosses for the piece are beautiful. I did not start it at the event because I needed to be working on something monochromatic and smaller. And because I like to be able to come home, lay everything out, put it into a big scroll frame, especially something big like this. There's no way I'm going to do that on a... It's got to be on a big piece. So that was gorgeous. The other thing that happened, and I have a black and white copy of it because I purchased it as a download and did not have access to color printer at the time. But on weekend 2, so first of all, Jacob bought Laura a sampler and sent it to her here in the United States because I think it was, he purchased it in the US but sent it to her. She brought it with her weekend 1 so that he could see it in person because it was the first time that he'd actually seen it. And then he quickly charted it, turned it into a fundraising sampler for the Church of the Nazarene, which Caroline at Evertote donates money to so that they can use those funds for outreach for homeless, people in need in their local community, which I think is really cool. So the first weekend we were there were two of the charts that Jacob had available, that he had made available, that they were going to donate a portion of the proceeds to this church organization. And then he went ahead and charted Laura's Frisian sampler. And you can go on Evertote and you can get a Roxy Floss Co. set, and you can get the chart. And some of the proceeds from, I don't know if it's some or all the proceeds. I think you'd have to go to the Evertote website. But anyway, that's what this is. It's a fundraiser, which is really, really cool. And it's so pretty. Again, I think Shiloh might be stitching that, if I'm not mistaken. Cross Stitch MD. So these are the colors. There's, I think, 6 that he picked out. It's super subtle. I'm probably going to use it on Speculoos, the same chart, or the same linen. Some of the other charts that I picked up, this is a really cool, and there's a photo of it in the chart, but these 3, so tulip vase pincushion and carnation vase pincushion and a small floral alphabet sampler. Those all come from a spot sampler, an unfinished spot sampler, an antique that he has that has this, individual motifs that he then pulled and either directly charted those little motifs or pulled from those to kind of adapt a little bit. But these 3 charts can be, I picked up a piece of dirty porcelain, which is a very pretty neutral, a little bit lighter than the Speculoos color. And I pulled these colors so that all 3 could be completed. So like 1 or 2 of them don't have every color. I think that the carnation vase is a little bit more limited. But anyway, this is that's the thing about it. Like, you go out and you could just pull these off the rack and make your own little color conversion. So that's those 3. This was the other retreat piece in Friendship. So it's a slightly smaller Quaker style sampler. This was one of the, and these were released some time ago. AIO 1844. This would be good for Black Sampler November. As would this. Love Gains. So these are probably familiar if you're Modern Folk Embroidery fans. But those were the 2 that we purchased weekend 1, that a portion of those proceeds went to the outreach. This is in the Garden of Holland, Dutch sampler. I love that. Those trees at the top are so cool. And then Red Stag Among Roses. And this flower down here is so cool and psychedelic and weird. I just love it. So. So I can't say enough nice things about the staff and everybody that did such a good job of hosting that event. I really, really enjoyed it. A couple of things that I also picked up. So the Artsy Housewife, Evertote is carrying the Artsy Housewife Golden Delicious. Ellen was stitching this, and I immediately had to get the Roxy Flossco Floss Pack, which is gorgeous. I haven't opened it yet. This is called Coffee and Eggs, which a bunch of people have seen. I already had the chart. I think I bought it from Top Knot Stitcher when it first came out, like kind of pre-release. And I did get the Roxy Flossco Floss Kit for that. And now let's talk about one plan that I have. We're starting this on November 1st. I'm going to be using a piece of my linen. This is actually I pulled from my little boo-boo pile. And I don't know if you can see it. It's probably not going to show up on, but see there's a line that runs across, and that was actually a factory flaw from Zweigart. Somehow there was a piece of linen fiber that went across kind of parallel to the selvage, and when I dyed it, even though it was albarium and it's very, very light, it pulled some of the dye, and that piece only sucked the dye in and got really dark. And so I can't, obviously I'm not going to resell that. So that's been kind of sitting in my little whatever pile. So it's perfect because we are Ellen, Gwyneth, and I think Ellen said Emily C. And there's somebody else. There's a couple people that are going to be doing a Prairie Schooler Christmas Village stitch along. And we're going to start this November 1st. So I'm using that piece of 46 count Boo Boo Albarium. And I am going to be using these. So I'm excited. That's going to be a fun one. I want to talk about some acquisitions. First of all, Ellen shared these with me. I want to stitch every single one of them, but she has 2 series that are available now, and they have been since the summer. And after stitching the Ravens at Castle Kerr, it's so much fun. She's incorporated in like Smyrna's and some straight stitch and some other things, and they just are super fun to stitch. So she's got this series of the Thieves, so the Pineapple Thief. I love that one so much. Pumpkin Thieves. Those birdies stealing the pumpkins. The Honey Thief. I love all of them. I love the patterns. I love the colors. Just dragging that cute bee scap. Come on. Ugh, so cute. She's also got the Queens. So this is Anne Boleyn. Look at all the different stitches in there. Satin stitch, rice stitch, I think. Eyelets. That's a lot of eyelets, Ellen. Catherine of Aragon. Oh, I just love these. Queen Elizabeth I. Those colors. Woo. Also, this little reproduction, if you go back and watch Ellen's most recent, I'm not sure if it's the most recent or the one right before that, when she released this, Helene Monk 1904, and she's saying the alphabet according to Helene. Because if you look at this, her alphabet is a hot mess. A, B, C, D, E, F, X, H, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Y. Oh, Helene. This is the Friendship Sampler, the smaller version. So Ellen's got the Friendship Sampler with the people that you can like mix and match and customize to make like your own little stitchy group if you like. And then she edited that down so that it's a smaller version of the same sampler. It's just so good. The border's so good, and look at that big house. Oh, and the lemon tree. I love it. Okay, so Olivia B, again, Hillside Rookery is her shop. So I bought this and the silks to go with it. I love that. Crow number 5, that needs to go on my bird wall. Here are a couple of other artsy housewife charts. And again, the floss packs are available for these at Evertote, and the charts. Midnight Garden, I love that one. The colors on it are so cool. Pretty Bird. Gloria, who was sitting at my table at Pinwis, finished this while we were there. It was very, very pretty. Very pretty. And I think she used the DMC. But, yeah, gorge. I shared this too in my last video. Teresa Kogut in her Patreon, she had a 6-part stitch along. One part was released each month. Now they're all out, and I believe that she was going to be offering this. I don't know if it's going to be when it's going to be released, but she said it was okay for us to share it. But this is called Simple Life, and she stitched this on a piece of my Overcast. And it's so cute. So many animals and bees and cute people and house and trees and flowers and cute border. Ducks. Love it. So thank you, Teresa, for using my fabric for this. This was really fun. Fun to see people's progress on this, and now it's all done. I picked up this. I haven't seen this before. And I don't know that I've seen anybody, I don't know that I've seen a finish. So if you're stitching this, let me know, because I think it's so cool. This is by the Scarlet Letter. This is Anne Jones, 1776. And what really drew me in was the orange. I love that orange. I think it's so cool. Cool enough that I bought the Averissois, and I'll do this on a 36 or 40 count. So, anyway, I love that one. And the last bit of haul that I will share today is this. Jacob just released this a couple days ago. This is his 2024 stitch along called No Time Like the Present. He shares a few different color combinations. They're amazingly beautiful, and it's such a cool chart. So yeah, had to get that. No Time Like the Present. Okay, thank you so much for watching. Actually, you know what? I have one more thing that I want to share. A couple of you have sent me beautiful little care packages or nice gifts over the last few months, and I have been derelict in not posting videos, and so this is the first opportunity that I've had to share them. So first of all, Jenny and Nancy Bougie Stitchers sent along this adorable project bag. I love it. Beautiful colors and little detail, and I love this floss drop. Just really, really pretty and thoughtful. I love that owl. Look how cute. So this is the bag. Sweet card. I love it. Thank you so much. I really enjoy watching them. And then this one came in the mail and just blew my socks off. So Peg is on Instagram, and I believe she said that there was a chart that I had given away, and she won. So, you know, I mailed it to her. And she sends me back this as like a thank you. And it's this curated package of things that were just so sweet, and I like the kindness and generosity of this community always blows me away. So there were a series of cards like open last, and you know, and a letter in there, and I won't go into the whole contents of it, but it was just really, really thoughtful. And some of the things that she included are really personal and just beautiful, and I'm so grateful. So she made this adorable little needle book. I mean, it's just, and it's like a little punch needle. And what she said was that a lot of these things came from just little notions and things that she had, you know, in her stash that she's trying to share. So there were needles, a girl and her dog. So cute. And I'm so happy that I finally get to start using these things, because I've been keeping them aside so that I could share them. Anyway, I just think this is so neat. It's like a little picture, like a little picture frame, you know, like you'd open it up and there'd be a photograph inside. She shared with me some little bits of wool that would be perfect in like a fall applique project. Totally have my eye on what I want to use that for. Some sweet fat quarters or fat eighths of fabric that are my favorite kind of mid-century modern colors. These, you know, greens and yellows, and so, so, so cute. More of these little picture booklets, which are just, you know, she added like little inserts, and I think this would be really cool to put a little finish in, right? Like a little cross stitch finish, something kind of antique-y, and just have it sitting. It's super sweet. It's a good idea. And this is actually, it's got like a little pocket, so there's other cute little cards in here. So then she made a set, a project bag, and a little notions pouch. So good. And these are cute. She said that these came from just like little charms that she found, like bits of broken jewelry. These were from her, I believe she said either from her mom or from her grandmother. They're little bees. I love them. And the bee, a little beehive fabric on the back with another one of those. This had me in tears when I opened it, just so you know. And then made a sewing mat. So it's got pockets. It's quilted. It's got the Belding Corticelli and some old glory, all of these old antique thread brands. What a cool print. And then these great antique sewing machines on the back. It's so cool. And last but not least, she knit me some socks. I don't think anyone's ever knit me socks before. They're like my favorite color. It's like this beautiful ochre. So now the last couple days there's been a little bit of frost on the ground, and so I get to wear these in my little stitchy chair upstairs. Use my Hearthside Craftworks floor stand. So thank you so much. That just was so generous. It totally made my day. And the one good thing about not making a video is that this has been kind of in a pile in my craft room, and so every time I come in here I sort of am reminded of how nice all of these things are and how much I love them and how all my viewers are my friends. So thank you, Peg. I really, really, really appreciated this. This was very, very nice of you. So I think that's going to be it for this particular video. I may be able to slam this all into one. I am, like I mentioned before, going to do a Flosstube extra, and it's going to be a review of my Hearthside Craftworks floor stand, and I'm going to, at the end of that, talk about the different types of scroll frames, rods, whatever that I use. I primarily use Millennium frames, especially for my bigger projects, but there are a couple of other brands that tend to be useful. Excuse me. So look for that in the next day or two. Meanwhile, thank you so much for watching. And for all of you who have ordered linen and who have been such good, loyal customers, I really, really appreciate you. There will be some new colors releasing soon. We're coming up on December 16th will be 1 year since we have launched the shop. The overwhelming response and enthusiasm really caused me to have to kind of recalibrate and take a step back and make sure that I was going to be able to maintain the quality, consistency, in the way that I wanted to. And so not rushing out with more and more colors was intentional. And I think that over the next few months, now that we've gotten some other things, you know, like right now we're doing a little remodel project in my husband's office and some other things, getting the house a little bit more functional in terms of how we, now that we know what our routine is and how the pattern is of, you know, orders to shipping to dyeing to all of that, it's going to make things, you know, going forward next year is going to be way, way more manageable. So anyway, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and edit this and hopefully get it posted this evening. And I hope you are enjoying the fall. And in the meantime, be safe, be nice to each other, have a happy day. Bye.